everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Hailie, and today I am going to be doing the book recommendation tag that I have seen floating all around booktube. So today I have 15 total books to share with you guys, and each one has a different prompt which I wrote down so I won't forget them. So I am just going to hop right in with the first one. A book that you always tell everyone is your favorite. Mine would of course be Love and Other Words. I have definitely told you guys that this is one of my favorite books of all time at least a million times. The childhood friends to lovers trope is one of my all-time favorites, and I just love the setup of this book. I love the story, I love the characters. It is a really sweet story, and if you're into romance, this is one that I will always recommend. This book is just absolutely perfect in my eyes, and I'm obsessed with it. Number 2 is a book that is your guilty pleasure. And this one was tough because I don't really have a guilty pleasure book. There's not a book where I'm like embarrassed that I like it or anything. So I actually went ahead with X's and O's. This is a really cute romantic comedy. It is a little bit of a cheese fest, so I decided to choose this one for that reason. The main character is a bookfluencer, and most of the time I'm not really into books where it's like the main character is an influencer. Like, I don't really like to read the behind the scenes of being an influencer when that is the life that I live. This one was just so cute. The writing was very funny and I just adored this one. But don't get me wrong, I don't feel guilty about loving it. The next one is a book that everyone else loved, but I didn't, and there are so many books to come to mind, but the only physical copy that I actually had on my bookshelf is this one. This one is The Spanish Love Deception, and I feel like people either really loved this book or it just wasn't for them, and I definitely fell into the wasn't for them category. I just found the main character to be really exhausting and frankly annoying. This one was like just tough to get through because I disliked the main character so much. I'm really bummed to say it because this is one that I had been wanting to read for a while. I was excited about it, but it just didn't work out for me. Next up, a book that I read the fastest. There's definitely a handful of books that come to mind for this one that I've read in like 4 hours, but the first one that I thought about is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. This one I read in like 3 or 4 hours, just a single afternoon. I didn't stop to eat or do anything. I just literally read straight through this book. I ate it up. It was so cute. I think that this is the perfect YA romance. It's a play on the typical romantic comedy movies that I just love so much, and there's just so many quotes and little mentions of some of my all-time favorite romance movies. It is such a sweet read and I loved it so much, and I also really adore the cover on this one. Number 5 is a book that deserves more hype, and I decided to go with Catherine Center's The Bodyguard. One, because I feel like this is a good recommendation for spring and summer coming up. It just kind of gives the vibes of summer. But 2, I don't really see a lot of like booktubers or bookstagrammers mention this one or show it off or post it or anything, and I thought this one was so cute. Another really fun rom-com. It's about a woman who is essentially the bodyguard of a famous celebrity man, and to keep it pretty low profile, they are fake dating, which is one of my favorite tropes, and I just love how this book played out. I'm also a little Texan girly, and I loved all of the little mentions like Fredericksburg peaches and stuff. So cute. Next up is a book that is becoming a TV show or movie, and there was one other book that I had in mind, but it's already a TV show. So the only one that I could think of is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, which we all know is coming out as a movie, I think next year. I honestly have no idea what is going on with the movie, just that Blake Lively is gonna be in it, and I'm very excited about that. Typically for me, if I have read the book already, I will sometimes watch the movie, but if I watch the movie or TV show before the book, I can't read it because then I already have like those faces and characters in my head, and I feel like it just totally distorts the book for me. So I am excited to see this movie, but since this is a recommendation tag, I do want to mention Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough. This one is already a TV show, and I did read the book already, haven't seen the show, so I don't actually plan on watching the show. But I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was really fun and so hard to put down. I just wanted to figure out what the heck was going on. So, had to mention it anyways, even though it is already a TV show. It's just a really good thriller and mystery, and so good. 7 is a book that you have reread the most, and I am not a rereader. If I've read a book, I will pretty much never pick it up again. The only one that I can think of is when I was really young, I read Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, like 3 or 4 times. That one is forever a banger for little girls. But now I definitely don't reread books just because there's always something new, something else that I want to read and enjoy, and I feel like the magic isn't there the second time around for me, so I just can't do it. So moving on to number 8, a book from a genre that you typically don't read. I never ever read fantasy, but someone sent me this from my Amazon wish list, and I have been wanting to see what the hype is all about. So I still have yet to read this one. It is on my TBR. I really just like keep to romance or thrillers, and I like literary fiction, but I just never dip my toe into fantasy or anything really different, so I'm excited to see how I feel about this one. Number 9, a book that deserves all of the hype that it gets is definitely Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. This is such an entertaining thriller. It really just keeps you on your toes. There's so many twists and turns that are just so unexpected, and it is such a great book. So I know a lot of people are talking about this one and have been for the past few months, but it is so worth the hype, and I definitely recommend checking it out. Next up is a book that you typically recommend when someone is asking for recommendations, and pretty much every book in this pile is one that I would recommend, especially the first one, Love in Other Words, because it is my favorite, and there's a few others that I haven't quite gotten to in the book stack that I would have put for this prompt, but I didn't want to have any repeats for categories, so I decided to go with The Unhoneymooners. This is another rom-com. It's really fun. I love the 2 characters. They're both a little spicy, a little sassy. So this is one that I have definitely recommended multiple times and will continue to do so, especially summertime is coming up. I think this book is actually like in January, but still, like, they go on like a little vacation and it gives like that summery vibe, so it's definitely a good summer read. And speaking of good books for summer, the next one is a book that has my favorite characters, and of course I have to say Beach Read. I just am never not thinking about Augustus. Beach Read by Emily Henry is also one of my all-time favorite books, as well as another book that I always recommend when people ask for recommendations. I feel like everyone and their mama has already read this book, but if you have not, somehow, please. It is an absolutely perfect romance book, a little bit of an enemies to lovers sort of vibe, and I just feel like no one can ever top Augustus as my book boyfriend. Obsessed. So the next one was a book that you wish you could live inside, and since I don't read fantasy, there aren't like these other worlds that I can choose from for this one, and I was trying to think in any of these books, like I like the settings like of Book Lovers where they're in like the little small town and stuff, but I don't feel like I want to be in any of these books. So I did choose The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and I know there's a lot of craziness in this era and like bad things, and she has definitely been through a lot in her lifetime, but I am just talking specifically about the glamour, just the old Hollywood glamour, the vibes, the dresses, the hair, all of that jazz. That is strictly what I'm talking about, not the bad things. This one was so hard though. I could not think of anywhere else. So I guess. Next is a book that I thought I would hate. Hate is a strong word, so dislike, but didn't. And I also have another Taylor Jenkins read, Malibu Rising. I didn't necessarily think that I would dislike this book, but I definitely did not expect to love it as much as I do. I thought it was going to be a little bit heavier on the surfing, and although they do talk about and mention surfing a lot, you don't need to like know anything about surfing going into this book, and there's way more to the story than surfing. And I just loved reading about these siblings and just the way that Taylor Jenkins Reid writes. She really just like envelops you in their world. So I really enjoyed this one. It was a really cool literary fiction and I adore it. I know there's plenty of people out there that don't like this one, but I will always recommend this one. 14, a book that made me cry. I feel like everyone has probably mentioned this in their recommendation tag, but immediately my thoughts go to If He Had Been With Me. And I don't have the physical copy with me. My sister is borrowing it right now, but God, this one had me sobbing at the end. And I'm not typically a crier with a lot of my books. This one, it just, it hurt my heart. It made me cry so hard. I couldn't stop thinking about it. And it's like one of those things where you know it's coming, but it just still absolutely crushes you. And the very last one is a book that I wish I could reread for the first time again, and I had to go with Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This book is very similar to Love in Other Words. They're kind of set up the same. So needless to say, this is another favorite of mine, and I just absolutely adore this book. I adore the feelings that I feel when reading this book. It is very sweet. Another childhood best friends to lovers trope. I did also cry with this one. Also, her other book, Meet Me by the Lake, is coming out soon in May. Not soon enough, but I am so excited because her writing in this was stunning. So good, so picturesque. Immediately add this one to your summer reading list if you have not read it already. And that wraps up the book recommendation tag. I'll have the prompts in my description box if you guys want to check it out and hop on board of this tag. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye.